you doing? Welcome back, folks. We are here at episode 38, if I'm not incorrect. And I know I am incorrect because I looked that up earlier this morning. And today I have the pleasure of welcoming Steve Angellis to our fine broadcast studio here in Norfolk, Massachusetts. And let me just give you a little bio of Steve. Actually, we ran into each other. I've seen Steve along the way, as many of us guitar players in Boston see each other along the way. And we were playing this cool little, funky little place called the Sunset Tiki Bar and Grill in Westford, Mass. And if you've never been out there, it's right near the Neshoba Ski Valley. It is very cool. I don't know how many days they have music. Do you know?
They used to do 4 or 5 nights, and because of COVID, they cut way back. Right. And now I think they're just doing Friday and Saturday nights.
I mean, it's a haul from around here in Norfolk. It's about an hour from here, but it's a great place to bring kids. There's a lake there.
Very friendly.
You can just run around, go crazy. The food is great. The drinks are amazing, and the stage is great for a musician.
Yeah.
So I ran into Steve there, and he had been playing in an acoustic duo, which I've been doing for many years around Boston. So we kind of knew each other, but not really. So let me go through a little bit of the bio of Steve right here. Steve became interested in playing guitar at the rare age of 8 years old, watching the Ozzie and Harriet show. Now, I did do a search earlier this morning to find, what years was that? It was 52 to 66, so that's a big bell curve. I think you and I are close enough. No, you don't. I'm not going to give away his age, but he's a few years older than me, so we were influenced by the same sort of stuff too. And at the end of each show, the Ricky Nelson would play, and I think it probably played live. I bet.
I bet it was his band on stage. The band would play. I'm a traveling man.
And he had a great voice, and those are the sorts of things as young little kids in guitar saying, "Man, I want to do that."
Yeah.
So Steve's two older brothers were already playing instruments. Are they still playing?
My oldest brother has now quit, but my second oldest brother lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he's a classically trained pianist, and he is very, very, he plays in a big band, like a swing band, so he does a lot of jazz stuff, and he's very well trained.
And that's Dennis.
That's Dennis, yeah.
And Phil was your other brother. He was a bass player. Yeah. You had a drummer in the neighborhood, and this. What year was this? Was this 65, 66?
This was probably before the Beatles.
Okay, so we're talking, the Beatles came here February of 64, so 62.
Yeah.
I had not picked up guitar at that point. So the band needed a guitar player to round out, so you convinced your dad to pay half for an electric guitar. It was $89, But I do have you beat. I had a $19 off the wall of Woolworth in Alston. And I had $0, and my uncle gave me $19.
That's awesome.
And I bought that guitar, and it had action like this. I've told you folks at home. Action is
how
far
you shoot arrows.
See how close that is. That's easy to play. But I wanted it bad. So so at that point, you like many of us, we picked up chord charts. Chords are like this here. Let me just show you chords. That's a C chord, a G chord, an F. So if you learn 15 chords, I've been saying this for years, you know every song in the world. Which just helps and hurts guitar players as being learned musicians, because if you're a clarinet player, you need to know what C is on the note. You need to know what the C is on, and that's how you play. Most of us did not learn that way, although I had nuns, and they did teach me to read right off. But so you went to a chord chart at a music store and started shedding. Soon you could find out that you could play some songs with them, I bet.
Especially rock music. Rock music was all minors and majors. That's what you had to do.
And a minor, and like a major chord or minor chord. You hear that sound difference right there? And that's what we would learn. We would learn these songs. So over the years, Steve taught himself how to play solos. And what we just did earlier here, we didn't know that song. We made that song up. Right. And we kind of know the rules of the road, and we just kind of jam on it. It's something that musicians can do. Steve is 100% self-taught, which, and again, I've had this discussion with many guitar players over the years. We are all self-taught, really. I don't care if you're Segovia. You pick up things from teachers, but at the end of the day, it's 10 hours on a Saturday when you're 11 years old, when your friends are out playing baseball, when you're there teaching yourself.
Exactly.
And young kids at home, we didn't have YouTube, which you could, every song in the world, there's some guy out there who will teach, or man or woman, who will teach you that song. We had to do this thing, lifting the needle, listening to it over and over again. So we're all self-taught in many ways.
Lyrics? Are you kidding me? Do you remember trying to get lyrics?
You know, I had to do that.
Lyric sites.
I had to do that recently with a song that I couldn't find the lyrics of, and I had to sit there and write out the lyrics. But here are some of the projects Steven's been involved in: the Midnight Riders, the Concord Grape, the Shining, the Young Ones, Cyrus Zane, Chain Smoking, Looking Glass, and Big Time. His current band of 20 plus years with the same guys, which I do not believe.
Yeah.
I do not believe that's possible.
Yeah, 20 years with the same guys.
You know, I've said this, and you may agree or disagree. Sometimes being in bands is harder than marriage. But you know why? Because we're all sensitive, we're all egotistical, and we're all insecure. That's like a soup of just disaster. You know, if you're insecure and you know, not happy with your playing, and someone says something at the wrong time, that's when a band breaks up. But you did it with 20 years, and I'll get into that.
Yeah.
You know. You do an acoustic duo, and I've been seeing you all over Facebook doing your own thing as well, which I love to do. Yes. Some of your influences, the same as mine, it were these guys, Jeff Beck, Eric Clapton, I'm sure Jimmy Page, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was those, what we call blues rock. And I don't know, we're about the same age, and you probably feel the same. I always had to have that sort of a foundation. So like when the 80s came and the middle guys came, and they didn't have a foundation of blues, I wasn't interested.
Right.
You know, a million notes per minute,
right.
It's like, you know. So let me go listen to a lot of different types of music. If you read my playlist, you might think I'm all over the charts, which many of you, people always ask me when I don't know if you get the same thing. When I'm setting up my stuff, people say, what do you do? I always say, what we don't do. I don't do metal, and I don't do rap.
Like, I always just say almost the exact same thing. People say, well, what do you do? I always go, what do you like? And,
yeah, exactly.
And basically they...
Except for Freebird. Freebird, there is a costume. I played recently, and Katie just stopped me if I go down rat holes, because I will go down rat holes. But someone came up to me, he was a pretty inebriated kind of guy, and asked me to play Freebird. I'm there, yeah, right. And so I said $100. He pulls up $100. I'm there on Ultimate Guitar. Look it up real quick. So if you come to my gig and you pay me $100, I will play Freebird.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because I was playing Sunday, and somebody came up and said to me, "Stairway to Heaven."
Yeah.
And I said, if I do it, you got to pay me.
Yeah.
And they said, sure, I'll give you $50. And I said, okay. And so on an acoustic guitar, with a looper and a drum pad pedal,
right,
I did it, and I did the solo at the end and everything. And they was like, I can't believe you just did the solo on an acoustic guitar. But you know what? We're like chameleons. We do
exactly.
everything we can.
You know, and that's the nature of guys like us. I consider ourselves sidemen. You know, we've been there. I mean, is it a Walt? Is it a Van Halen thing? You know, I will play it. So his solo career in playing with Big Time these days has been your focus since you retired. Both of us have retired. So now, again, some guys golf, some women, they boat, they do other things. Guys like us have spent our entire lives wanting to just do music full time. And we worked very hard to do that. So you play on Amelia Island. Where's that? In Florida?
Off the coast of Florida. I go down there for 4 months every year.
4 months, really? Do you rent a place down there?
I rent a condo right on the ocean.
Right. And you go down for 4 months. So you skip the winter.
I skip the winter.
You were my hero, man.
I earned that.
Yeah, it's awesome playing outdoors on the beach while the Northeast is frozen.
Yeah.
My goal, again, is to continue to play and bring music to as many people as possible.
As long as these keep working.
And that's it. You know, again, we'll talk about that. It's always nice to see a smiling audience, and I feel the same way. It's the old story about you know, you can take this when my cold dead hands can't do it anymore.
That's right.
So let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Quincy and Braintree.
So you're a South Shore guy.
South Shore guy. We had a little place down the Cape that we used to go to summers. It was a shack on the water that my father.
You're a beach
paid.
guy.
Yeah, my father paid like $1,000 for in 1952. It was like one of those things.
Yeah.
But basically went to school Quincy in the younger ages, and then Braintree, Archbishop Williams High School, St. Thomas More.
Sure.
You know, same thing as you, nuns.
Yeah.
Had that
Absolutely.
education. But I started playing in bands right away. CYO dances. I don't know if you remember those.
I played them all, man.
Yeah.
I played for the Surf Nantasket
I
out of
played the Surf.
Hull.
Yeah.
They were called the Surf. There was a
That's
big
right.
agency.
Yeah,
Played in a band called the Formations.
Yeah.
It was us with the Second Society and the Techniques.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We were doing
That's
all those
right. The
bands.
Rockin' Ramrods and all those guys.
So you were 8 years old. Was it your older brothers seeing them, or was it
it was kind of funny. At the school program, you could play either a saxophone or the violin or a clarinet.
Right. Was that Catholic grammar school?
That was Catholic grammar school.
Right.
So,
same for me.
Yeah. And so you could only, that was your choice. Those only 3 things.
And guitar was frowned upon.
Yeah. So I picked up the saxophone, and it was like, I can't sing playing saxophone. I want to sing too. I want to sing and play. And then my 2 older brothers were both starting a band, playing, Rock Around the Clock and, the Big Bopper and Eddie.
So those guys were probably born in the 40s, right?
My brother was born 48 and the other one's born 49, right?
Right. So they were 20 years old in the 60s.
That's correct. So they were playing,
Right.
And I said, we need a guitar player. They had a guy, but he was like never there. He wouldn't show up. And he had an old Strat I wish I had now. And
could you imagine that? This probably had to be a 55, 56, 57,
he used to hitchhike back and forth, and he left it in the basement. So every time they rehearsed, I would watch his hands and see what he did. And I would go down after he left, and I'd sneak down, open the case, and I would pick up the guitar. Of course, with nothing on. It's nice and soft.
Right.
And I would imitate chord shapes.
Right.
Didn't know the names of them, but I would imitate them, and that's when my brother caught me. And he said, all right, you want to play the guitar in the band, you're going to need to get a chord chart and learn the names of the form, because I'm going to say key of C, it's a C, A minor, F, and G, which is a typical 1, 3, 4, 5 from the 50s. And that's how I got started, and that's how I, kind of, I had a knack for hearing things, so when I started doing solos, I basically copied, Light My Fire, copied the solo.
Right, and we all did.
And that's where I really started learning how to improvise, because once you learn some of the box shapes, you learn how to improvise off those shapes and
just let it go.
Just let it go. And it's just been, I just love playing. I love to do it. I sit in my house, people talk to me, and their words go in one ear and right out the other, and I just sit there and play.
Just a little sidebar here, what he was talking about, that Stratocaster, it was made by Fender. Fender makes both of these guitars. Guitars from the early 50s and 60s, they were just a different thing. One of those rare things where something way back when was made 100 times better than they're made today. Yeah. Some of these guitars, Joe Bonamassa is one, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts is another one of these collectors who spend $500,000 to $1 million plus to buy these guitars. So Lord knows what that probably was worth.
I have a 62 that I bought off of a bass player in
62 Strat?
Yeah, in 1965 for $250. Still had the original
and how's
strings
it play?
On it. Right now?
Yeah.
It's in great shape.
You don't take it outside?
I don't take it outside. It's in fact when
I go back and forth on that, man, because I have a very expensive Taylor that I use, an 814 that was worth about $4,000, and I beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
But it just sounds great, so I use them as tools. But a 62 Strat, I could see never letting that see the light of day.
Yeah, and when I go away for the winter, everything goes into climatized storage, because I shut my heat down and I shut everything down. You just can't leave instruments.
So you rent a place for that?
I rent a storage unit with climate control, and I put a lock on it the size of New Jersey.
Now Steve has an issue here. It's something maybe we can help him with. He owns 29 guitars. Yeah, so it's sort of a problem.
It's called gear acquisition syndrome. when a musician,
GAS.
Yeah, when a musician says I have gas, they don't have stomach problems. They have gear acquisition syndrome.
Yeah. Did you ever see that meme of the guys from the Goodfellas, and they're all laughing out real loud, and it says, she said, so you bought a guitar, so you're gonna get rid of the old one, and they're all laughing.
Right. Yeah. Not anymore. Yeah. Not from some of the stuff that I had when I was a kid that I got rid of.
First of all, did you get along with your older brothers? Was that?
Yes. Oh, great.
Really?
Yeah, still do.
Even back then?
Still do.
Because back, it's sort of, It was always my friends. I had sisters, younger sisters. My friends with brothers, they hated each other growing up.
I think we grew up in an Italian family, and I was 4 years younger than my older brother, 3 years younger.
It's a big gap.
And when my dad used to say, he can play in the band with you,
oh yeah,
but if he gets in trouble, I'm coming to see you. So they kept me from getting in trouble because I was young.
Yeah.
You know, I was 12, 13 years old playing college mixers
playing
and stuff
gigs
like that. Yeah.
at 12, 13.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like that, guys, at home. Nothing like gigging. Nothing what I call building scar tissue. Screwing up, making mistakes, and then you learn from them. And the best way to do that is not in your bedroom. It's out in front of people.
On stage. I would rather play to 250,000 people than to 25.
Yep.
Because if 250,000 people will never hear a mistake, but that 25 will hear every single one of them. So.
What's that old joke about, 3 chords and the rocket players play to 3,000 people, and 100 chords, the jazz guys play to 4, and I went to Berkeley and I did all the whole jazz thing, and you just get I was forced into it. We'll talk about that later. So, how long did that last in that band? Because they became older, right? And went on in their lives.
I actually, before I played with them, I formed my own little quartet,
in the neighborhood,
so that we could just kind of like learn how to play. And then my brother was like, "Okay, now you come and play with me because you've gotten to that, gotten to a level." My oldest brother went away to college, so he stopped with the bass. We replaced him with another guy, and then my brother and I both joined another band.
The keyboard brother.
And we played together for a long time. And then at some point, he's a doctor. He went to Dartmouth Medical School, so he ended up had to make a decision whether he was going to continue with music or use his pre-med and go to medical school. He went to Dartmouth, and that's when I went, played with other people, and I played with a fair amount of different kinds of ensembles, from a couple of trios and mostly 5-piece, and then wedding bands. Played with a few wedding bands where the wedding band circuit has become, they're playing the same songs I played 30 years ago.
Yeah, celebrate good times.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah. Brick House and all that. So hey, sit in with a wedding band. If you've done it twice, you can do it again. And so
actually, this might be a good time for the video here. We got one with a wedding tune type-ish thing. Freak Out.
Right.
Why don't you tell us about this gig?
Big Time is a band that I joined that was originally called Mr. Slate, who was the boss for Fred Flintstone.
Right.
Husband and wife, lead singer, keyboard player, guitar player, drummer who's just phenomenal drummer with an unbelievable voice, a bass player that can play any kind of guitar or bass. He's great. And me, and it's like all 5 people sing.
And who's the female vocalist?
Kathleen Powers, Dave Powers and Kathleen Powers. He's such a good keyboard player and singer, and Kathleen's excellent. But the vocals are always, never a problem. You get 5 people that sing.
Right. I love that, man.
So where there are 2 guys that had better voices than me, I've always been like a backup singer. I've never been like that front guy.
But didn't you sing a Boston song on something? Don't you sing? Oh, maybe that was somebody else. I saw some video.
Yeah, somewhere. No, that was Dave. That's Dave sings the.
So
Boston
tell us
song.
about this tune, Freak Out. Actually, there's a big riff here. I don't think I know it. Freak Out. Take a walk. Listen to this.
It's not a freak. They're doing it night and day. Allow us to show you the way. Freak out. They freak. Say she. Freak out. All the pressure got you down. As your head spinning all around. Feel the rhythm. Take the ride. All alone, have a real good time.
Okay, folks, we're back here. So, out of high school, what happened? What'd you do?
I went into graphic arts.
Uh-huh.
I started working at a small place next door to my father's. My father was a barber in Wollaston, Mass. There was a small shop next door to him. So
Right down
I
in
used
Quincy
to,
on the beach, right?
Yep. So I used to go there and work after school and drive home with my dad. And then when I graduated high school, I went to work there full time. I started college and went, nah, it didn't work.
Let me interrupt you there. And what was interesting about you picking up when you did, I think it was definitely an influence of your brothers. It was before the rest of the world did it in '64. Once the Beatles came, every corner had a band. But you guys were ahead of that.
Yes.
And did you end up picking up playing some Beatles songs?
A lot of Beatles songs. Beatles, my big, like, that era influence were the Beatles, the Young Rascals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, and we
You're
actually...
like me, man. I liked vocal bands with great,
Exactly.
the Eagles,
Right.
The Byrds, a bunch of guys, Crosby,
Yeah.
Stills, Nash and Young, all of those. I mean, I had this sort of a dual thing. I loved the Jeff Beck and that stuff too, but I loved the vocals.
Yeah,
Not
I
too many
agree.
people mix those two
No.
together,
And I think my brother's influence, we started getting into, like, King Crimson,
Oh,
and
prog.
Yes, and UK, and Wishbone Ash, and some of these kind of prog rock bands, and we started playing some of that stuff. And what happened was, we couldn't get any work because people couldn't dance to that.
Right, yeah. People
Couldn't
want to
dance, couldn't dance to that music. So
They want a backbeat.
That's right. Exactly.
People
So when
want
you
to-
were playing. It became a thing where it's like, people can't dance, so we're not going to hire you anymore. And so we were writing a lot of original material. We were like, it was just
What
too
years?
crazy. That was back in, like, the late 70s.
Okay.
And then
I mean, you're a grown-up man at that point.
and
Right.
it started I played in a band called Chain Lightning, where we did a lot of, like, Steely Dan, and we had 3 girls in the band, so we did a lot of Heart. We did a lot of that kind of music,
Yeah.
so, like, vocals, and
Heart
then-
will work, but Steely Dan, you will clear the dance floor.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, some of that, but
So
for
some
the
of
most
it,
part,
like, I remember the 35 sweet goodbye. So we did that kind of stuff.
let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Album, Skunk Baxter's new album. He does a version of that.
Yeah.
My old school that will blow you
Oh,
away.
awesome.
That's just out today, kids.
Awesome.
Don't tell me I didn't
That's
ever
right.
point.
You've been warned.
So you did the graphic art thing.
So the graphic arts thing.
So
kept me
you
in-
gotta work. You gotta pay. You
Yep.
gotta,
So I worked.
And the college didn't work out. You didn't want to go to Berkeley or
I
any of that?
originally was going to go to be a dentist, and I decided that wasn't my calling. And
Mm-hmm.
so I said, let me take gap year
Yeah.
that has lasted now 50 years.
What year was that? Like late 60s, early
70,
70s?
I graduated from high school.
70s. So yeah, so a lot was happening in 1970. That was hippie times.
Yeah.
Were you a hippie?
I was.
So he's a little bit older than me. I wanted to be a hippie, but I wasn't old enough.
I had
My mother wouldn't
hair
let me
down
go to
to here.
Woodstock. I said, Mom, and she said, Billy, I was 14. You're not going to Woodstock. It was the one time she put her foot down.
Well, a friend of mine and I jumped in the car and
Oh, you
drove.
did it?
Didn't tell our parents where we were going. We got in the car. We made it as
Could you
far as.
imagine that today?
Yeah.
No cell phones. Where's my kid?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm staying at a buddy's house for the weekend. That's all they knew. We got about halfway there, and his VW Bug died.
Yeah.
And we got out and tried to hitchhike. And by the time we got to Woodstock, it was
Sounds
such
like
a,
by the time we get to Woodstock.
it was such a muddy mess. The fences were all down.
Right.
And we got there the last night late, and we got to see the final acts, Jimi Hendrix and a couple of other acts.
Yeah.
And that was, and then went home. So we didn't see anything. We didn't get to be in the big crowds. Everything.
Yeah.
It was just a disaster area.
I lived vicariously through that movie, which I saw at least 50 times.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved that movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's outdated. So, okay, so you did that, and then what? What did you...
Stayed with the graphics. Ended up
What a graphic? What do you mean by that?
I worked with printing companies, so I worked. I ran big heat set web presses, high end, high color, real quality color stuff, and then I got into more of the technical service consulting field engineer type thing, and educated myself along the way
in the graphic world.
In the graphic world, so I was taking classes at like RIT, or I would, a certain manufacturer would say, we're putting on a seminar, and anybody that wants to come, and the companies would say, if you want to go, we'll pay your way. So I would learn about components of the
I was
presses.
in high tech, same type of thing. We'd go to these classes and whatever. So my undergrad was music ed from Berkeley, and I fell into the computer business. But through certifications and trainings, you could learn the industry inside and out. And this is what we normally do. Many of us who don't become Jimmy Page, we got to do something to, because you had a kid, you were married, you had a house probably, so you got to pay major league bills. So, playing. And I guarantee you were playing on the weekends, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
And sometimes during the week, depending on how much I had to travel.
Yeah.
So
you probably have. I have 52 years. My first gig was June of 1970. 52 years of gigging. So you're probably 56, 57 years, right?
52. I probably 3 or 4 more than you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's well over half a century of gigging.
And I'm still learning every day. I haven't learned how to master this yet. This is something people say, oh, you've been playing so long, you must be able to play everything. It's like, no, sorry.
Okay, let's introduce this other, we got another video here. It's an Eagles song, Take It Easy.
Take It Easy.
Yeah, the same gig, right? Anything else you want to say about this?
We play a plethora of styles of music, from not really rap, but, like... And it's kind of a rap tune, but we play everything from that to Boston, Journey, a little bit of everything, just so people that want to dance can dance.
Cool.
And like the tiki is such a wide range of ages.
And what's it like at night? Because I've only played there during the day. Does it get packed?
It gets packed. It gets all. I mean, sometimes there's a 90-minute wait to get a table.
Really?
Yeah. Like we played this past Friday night. And a friend of mine came and he was like, I don't have a reservation. It's 90 minutes to get a table.
Yeah.
So they left. They were like, I'm not waiting 90 minutes.
So it's a cool place. So without further ado, take it easy.
Don't really want, she's a friend of mine. Take it easy.
talk a little bit. You had some great sounds here, and I normally use. I have a boogie that I use. I normally don't use pedals because everything's in the boogie.
Yeah.
But you were getting a great sound. Can you take us through your board here?
You know, I have a room full of pedals.
Oh, really? That sounds like a song.
So I might be like, okay, the Tube Screamer this week, and I might change it out to something else.
Is that where you were getting that great overdrive sound?
No, the Analog Man Distortion.
Yeah.
And the Analog Man does, you know, does
And that's
the
from Boss?
modification. And this is a
That's an old Ibanez.
little bit different.
That's a Tube Screamer.
Yeah.
What's this one here?
And this is an Analog Man compressor, so I got.
Can you
two
guys get a
compressors.
shot of that? Okay, great.
Two different compressors. I got a wah-wah pedal and a volume pedal.
Okay.
Digital delay, same as what you have there. And then I
Right.
use the flanger for occasional stuff.
I used to have a flanger years ago. Can you play that flanger and
it's
just
a
give people?
very old.
It's a great sound.
It's a-
You know,
it's a-
like the guy in the Police used to always use.
So it's an old. Should tune myself, but it's an old flanger, and
And it works great. These Boss things. I have a few Bosses at home. This digital delay is really new, but I have an Ibanez stereo chorus that's at least 35 years
And
old.
those are awesome. Analog.
Yeah.
You know, the old analog stuff to me
Yeah.
still sounds better than a lot of the digital stuff. Digital stuff got very brittle.
Yeah.
And as being a recording studio owner, I had, you know, big tape machines. You know, it had 24 tracks and a 32 track
Wow. So
machine.
were you doing
and then
like
I
big
got into
bands and
digital.
stuff?
I used to do
So
all that stuff.
you were doing that graphic thing. Was the studio thing a full-time business eventually?
No, it was part time.
It was always a
What I
sub-
did was I did a lot of like weekend stuff. I do like a little bit of everything. So I did a lot of GB bands, a lot of wedding bands,
As
and
I
stuff
did
like
too.
that.
That's called general business,
Yeah.
which is
So I recorded them. A lot of people wanted for their videos, so they would come in and record and then lip sync to their videos.
Uh-huh.
And then my best friend in the world, who was my ex-wife, I met when she was 18 years
you
old.
can mention her. She's a pretty famous singer.
Yeah, her name is Cassandra McKinley. She's a professor at Berkeley, a vocal professor at Berkeley. She's got 5 CDs out. She's internationally known.
Serious level
Yeah.
jazz singer.
But we're like, we have a kid together, so we always had to be parents, and
Yeah.
we've been great friends. I recorded her first 2 CDs in my studio, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and I went to like ADATs and Pro Tools, and I had a 32 channel Soundcraft Ghost board and racks of equipment.
Now is that business over? Because everyone's recording at home.
I moved and closed the studio down, and I was making a good amount of money recording. I do a lot of jazz guys, so I had like Dick Johnson from the Artie Shaw Orchestra and his son Gary, Herb Pomeroy.
Herb was a professor when I was at Berkeley in the 70s.
A couple of the guys from Tony Bennett's band, Gray Sargent and Marshall Wood.
Yeah, Tony Bennett, aren't those guys Massachusetts guys?
Yeah.
In his band, yeah.
Well, Gray Sargent is Dick Johnson's son-in-law.
Uh-huh.
Marshall Wood is his wife. I can't think of her name. Great singer, jazz singer. So it's a very small community, the jazz community.
Right.
So I had a lot of people. I had Tommy Hebb in, Bobby Hebb's nephew.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people in. So I did a lot of the jazz stuff. Because jazz musicians have a tendency to be great players and not so technically advanced.
Right. Exactly.
They are purists, so they go to recording studios.
I think it's a mindset, a brain sort of thing. A rock guys always into the technology.
Always into gear, right?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that. But then, with the advent of you can put GarageBand comes in your...
Right.
And
Right.
people didn't want to, people could do super high quality stuff at home now.
I mean, what are your thoughts on like the Billie Eilishes of the world who became the biggest star in the world from home studio?
Home studios.
Right.
Because there's what did you ever do any recording at home?
I did during COVID.
Yeah.
Is when I got hip to it.
Oh,
just
see, I
like everyone, I got a
started
little
years ago.
interface, and I got Reaper. A friend of mine told me it was cheaper than Pro Tools.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of those what I call COVID projects.
Yeah, and they're digital, so they're perfect. But in the old days, we'd buy like a 2-track recorder. And
Right.
you'd bounce stuff back and forth.
Right, right.
And the degradation of sound was horrible. So when you get to a certain point where you had bounced it 3 or 4 times, now it's just a garbled mess of distortion. It never sounded good. So then I like 2 tracks not enough. I need a 4-track, and then I bought a Fostex 4-track. Then I bought a Tascam 8-track, and then I bought a
Right, I remember.
24
I had
track
the 4-track
and a 32
cassette
track.
one. You know, remember that was from Tascam?
Yes, yeah.
You know.
So it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then I bought 3 ADATs, and
Is all that stuff gone now?
I still have it. You know what?
Yeah.
Anybody that wants it, it's for sale.
Yeah.
There's no market for it anymore. I
Yeah.
paid $4,700.
So let's talk more
for
about
an ADAT.
gear. It's I've gone to the Mesa Boogie Triple Crown, which I love.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic amp, and it's not that heavy. You know, it's like your typical sort of head with a 212.
Right.
And but I don't get to play it much. So what we you and I were talking because I was doing that Whiskey 6 band, and I got into the inner ears. Why don't you talk about what you're doing equipment wise these days?
Usually, this is just a kind of a practice amp for
Right.
me. I have a Rivera Sedona, which is a
That's a big one. Isn't that
fabulous
famous?
amp. It's
Well
the
known.
size of a twin reverb, but it weighs 100 pounds.
Expensive?
Yeah, yeah. Point
Like,
to
what,
point
$3,000
hand
type
wired.
of-
Yeah, close to $3,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And
That's what the real good amps go
yeah,
for.
and it's a. I mean, I talked to Paul Rivera on the phone when I.
It's like one of those shops like
Yeah.
that. What, like a 50 employee type company?
I don't even think they had that many back then. So
Uh-huh.
that's what I use when I do anything big. I throw a microphone on it.
When I saw you at Tiki, did you have this?
I had
think
this.
you had this.
Too much sand at the Tiki for my Rivera.
Right.
I vacuum this out every
And
time.
this can
I come
pull
back.
it off because you do. Do you have an out from there, or do you
I
mic
just throw a microphone on it.
Oh, okay.
I throw an SM57
And what's
on
this
it.
like 30 watt type thing?
I don't even know if it's that much. 25 maybe.
On a non sequitur, I played this bizarre gig along the Muddy River in downtown Boston near Berkeley.
Right.
You know, it was some environmental thing or something. So no electricity. So I went on. You know what's great about Facebook is there are forums for everything, and there was a Bose forum on there. What battery is good out there? And they told me about, and Jackery was the name of the company.
Yeah.
This 300 watt thing did 3 hours. My PA and my mixer. When I finished, I had 70% left.
Right.
So it's pretty cool that way.
I play at a place in West Boylston, and when they do outside,
Yeah.
they have one of those. And
Yeah.
it's this little bigger than a
battery.
car battery.
No sound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got USB outputs. It's got all kinds of. You can charge your phone on it.
Right.
But I play out in the other side of the parking lot where there's no
I
electricity.
don't think you can run a band through one of those things. Maybe you could. I don't know.
He's done it there, but I run full PA system and everything else, and
Yeah.
never had. And I never used 50%.
And so you're using this and that exact pedal board these days?
Yeah, most of the time. Like I said, every once in a while I'll go. I think I'll use my Fox tone bender or something like that, and I'll
Right.
switch out a pedal.
Right.
But,
And you got a lot of room there. You probably could fit another 1 or 2 in there, right?
yeah, one time I had a Bluetooth studio compressor
Uh-huh.
with the line 6 green digital delay with
Yeah.
the 4 delays
Yeah.
on top of it. It starts getting heavy to carry stuff around, and the older
Yeah, I'm
you get,
getting that. You're a few years old, and the only thing will stop me. Again, a friend of mine was saying something. Oh, Paul McCartney's 80. He's still doing it. You know,
He's not carrying
He's
it
leaving
yet.
with 1 pick, and he's going to the 4 Seasons.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what Billy Joel does when he plays on the East Coast? He flies home to Long Island. He doesn't stay in the 4 Seasons.
Oh, is that right?
You know, but believe me, McCartney is not breaking down the equipment, so it's a little bit easier for him. But I did see him at Fenway. It was amazing. He sang for 2.5 hours, ran around the stage. He just turned 80.
Yeah.
I didn't see him drink any water.
Yeah, I saw him at Fenway, not this year, but a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting MTV tickets, so I was like 3rd row.
Oh, really?
And it was like,
What was it like there?
it was wild.
And what
It
a
was so
band.
good.
Rusty Anderson on guitar.
Yeah.
Brian Ray on the bass and guitar.
Yeah.
I remember when Abe Laboriel Jr. was a little kid running around Berkeley when I was at Berkeley
Right.
because I had his father for ear
Yeah.
training.
Right.
He was a professor and a famous jazz bass player. And a keyboard player. This past concert they had horns, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But it was really something post-COVID going there. 40,000 people essentially singing the words to every song. It was pretty emotional. So what's going on now? What are you doing now?
I'm still playing with Big Time every couple of weeks at the Tiki. Generally, we do every Thursday night for the summer, and then we kiss each other goodbye and maybe do 1 or 2 gigs over the.
Oh, right,
the
'cause
off
you go
time.
away for 4 months.
And then I go.
And how
away.
does that handle?
I just
how do the
started doing
bands?
that, but the last
Do
couple
they
of
get
years-
mad about that?
No, not at all. Most of them do other projects. Dave does a solo and a duo.
Right.
Kevin plays in a band up in New Hampshire, and Jimmy plays in a band called KB3, which is a wedding function band.
Yeah.
So we're all doing a lot of other stuff. So Thursday nights seem to be like the sweet spots for us. We did every Thursday night.
Right.
Now we're
Rehearsing.
doing some Fridays and
Is that what you're saying?
No rehearsal. Tiki bar.
Oh.
And then we never rehearse. we
Yeah,
show
most
up and play.
good musicians.
We never rehearse.
Old joke was we practice on the gig.
Yeah, right. It's like you will learn a new song. You better know it when you get there. And it's like,
Yeah.
and then, you feed off of other people, so you know what's coming next. You
Right.
know what's going. You know what they're going to do. When you play with somebody for 20 years, I can tell exactly what Jimmy's
Yeah.
going to do when he plays a certain fill or Kevin hits a certain, bass part. So we do feed off each other. And then I'm doing solo. I'm playing 3 or 4 nights a week solo.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping that alive. I've got a harmonizer pedal. I've got
Yeah.
a kick drum pedal.
How's that work?
The kick drum's great.
What do you just hit it or
Tap on it. It looks like a pad.
dum dum
Yeah.
dum 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 dum,
Yeah, and I
and
can
then you
loop
do
it.
the loop out,
I can loop it into my looper. Yeah.
and that goes then
Yeah. So it sounds like a
You know, I
3-piece
have a
band.
loop. I just, when you're doing it with a duo, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you're doing the only singing, but
Right.
if somebody else is and it screws up a little bit, the ditto. I don't know if you know the
That's
ditto.
what I have.
You have the ditto?
I have the X4, the big one.
Okay, so the ditto, the original ditto, you gotta stop. You gotta hit it twice.
Yes.
And if you don't, you're in trouble.
But the X4, the reason why I have the X4 is the X4 has 2 loopers in it.
Uh-huh.
So you can do like a chorus and a verse kind of
Right,
thing.
right.
And
Oh,
then
I see. That
switching
makes sense.
between them, and all you have to do is tap one pedal, and it will automatically, at the end of the current playing loop, it'll go to the other loop, and if you hit the stop button, it'll continue to play the end of the loop before it stops by itself.
I mean, I do like it. It's a cool technology, and when I work in a duo, and some of my singers are known for being late, and so I ask them, just tell me, because I'll set up the looper, and it's really cool, It's like I get a looper going, I go, and then I make up stuff, and I fool around with it, and I just fade, and it sounds cool,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so, how are you doing? How are you getting gigs these days?
Geez, it's funny because a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah, the same with me.
I only use one agent, and that's Sound City.
I don't know him.
Bill
her.
Bill and Don Diorio.
No. Are they up north?
Yeah, they take really good care of me. They're out of Stoneham.
Do they book? What's the name of your main band again?
Booked Big Time. No,
Big-
Book
they-
Time. We just book ourselves.
You book yourself.
Yeah, always did. We went through agents a couple of times, and I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, we can't talk about agents because that would get X-rated.
Yes, we don't-
if I'm
we don't-
talking
we don't get
about,
into agents.
and
But I book everything myself.
where is Big Time playing? Outside of Tiki.
That's it.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
And that's once a week for
Every couple of weeks, not every week.
Yeah.
We in fact next week we're actually playing at the Warp and Weft in Lowell from 9 to 12, and I'm opening at the Tiki for the opening band. So I'm playing from 4 to 6, packing up and playing from 9 to 12.
Yeah, I did that on Saturday. I was in Wellesley from 1 to 4, and it was about 1,000 degrees out. And then I had to drive to Nashua to do some sort of thing, and then I had to wake up at 6. I got home about 1. Wake up at 6 to be in the Muddy River at 9:30. Again, both of us are retired. So why not?
And being people used to say to me when I was playing, they'd say, so what's your real job? And I used to say, this is my real job.
Right.
And they used to say, well, how do you support yourself? And I said, I'm in graphic arts during the day. And it's like, but that's your real job. It's like, no, my love of music started long before I got into graphic
I'm the same
arts.
way. I mean, I had to do what I had to do in high tech. I was in sales, and sales is a tough thing to be in.
Yeah,
You know,
no, I know.
Every 3 months you got to produce, or you're out, and if you got a family at home, it's a lot of pressure.
And I love my day job. I still consult. I still get calls, and I still go out and do some stuff. But
Yeah.
my father played Enrique Caruso and Mario Lanza. And my mother played. We had a stereo system that wouldn't fit behind this thing.
One of those big ones.
console stereo
big,
system,
like piece of furniture,
Motorola,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it had a turntable and place to store records and these big speakers, and we loved that thing.
Yeah.
And my mother listened to more contemporary music of the times, so we had a pretty good upbringing in music.
Yeah.
My parents loved music, so there was music in the house all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, same with me. My mother, Italian, Sinatra was all the time.
Oh yeah.
You know? And my father was Benny Goodman. My father
Yeah.
actually looked like Benny Goodman.
Yeah. My dad
Yeah.
liked the big band stuff
But,
too.
you know, it's like they hated rock and roll. They hated rock and roll,
Well, see-
my parents.
My parents, we were playing Battle of the Bands when we were little kids, and my
Right.
dad would drive us there. He was the little Italian guy, 5'1", 5'2", and he'd stand at the back with earplugs, cotton in his ear. And
Yeah, my father
those
was
are my
not a
boys.
big fan. He
you
was
know?
military. It was he came to one gig.
Yeah.
And he left halfway during dinner set at Bob's Clam Shack, and we were doing like,
Right.
stuff like that, and he said it was noise,
Yeah.
He liked the old jazz, that kind of stuff,
Yeah. My parents, they both liked music. In fact, when I was doing Looking Glass, the original Looking Glass was a power rock duo, and we used to play at Puffer Bellies all the time. And we had this-
Cream doing Cream stuff.
Yeah, we had this huge PA system and playing Puffer Bellies, just two of us on stage, and we opened up for Beaver Brown one night. And the guy said, "Can we use your PA because it's better than ours?"
Yeah.
But we were big and we were loud, and it was just two of us, left-handed
And we're gonna be
bass.
showing probably all during here pictures of you way back when.
All
with
the way
satin
back, yeah.
shirt and
Oh, God.
and we
Yeah.
saw that sort of stuff.
The overalls and all the crazy. Yeah, I mean, we had fun. It's like there's just something about it. The adrenaline rush is just.
Yep.
It's not the money. People go, "You make a lot of money." It's not the money.
No.
It's not
No.
the money. You know what
I mean, if you're gonna do this for money,
yeah, right.
you can do almost anything and make more money.
People say to me, "It must be great to do what you love to do and get paid."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't get paid to play. I play for free." And they go, "You play for free?" I said, "Yeah, I get paid to lug equipment, set up equipment, break down equipment, bring equipment in the house, learn how to play songs. I mean, there's hours and hours.
I mean,
and
if you
hours.
worked out the math,
Oh yeah.
I think I'm playing with a friend of mine up in a wedding thing. I got to learn like 50 songs. Not even think about that. I got to learn like 50 songs. And I think it's $300, and I think it's Winnipesaukee.
Yeah. And what are you making? 50 cents an hour when you're done?
Really, do not work out the hourly rate from here. So we got about 5 minutes left. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Anything?
Something bluesy.
Okay. That's it, folks. See you next time. Have a good one. Thank you.